All right, guys. So this is part 2. If you have not seen part 1, go ahead and check it out before you get into this one. But go ahead and stay tuned and hang out with us for part 2.
Yes, part 2. Y'all ready? Let's go. Okay, so I was gonna ask, how do you feel about him killing the guy? What's the guy's name? Brad. How do you feel about? Because I could completely see the scenario with Brad coming into being a criminal, and then stalking her and stalking somebody else. That made a lot of sense to me. And then he ends up
accidentally killing him.
They covered his mouth. He taped him
his nose.
And his nose, right? And so he suffocated to death. And how do you feel about that whole scenario? And do you think, I do think it made sense that he accidentally killed him. I do feel like it was his first time actually killing someone. So it didn't go perfectly as planned. And I like that she threw a wrench in there somehow.
I feel like, so let's back it up real quick. Okay. So here's one question that I actually have on here. What would you have done if you, in your shoes, what would you have done if you found a guy like Brad in your house?
Oh, I would have called the police.
So that was my first thing. Because all of a sudden, Brad, Arie, and Josh wanted to become some, I don't know, vigilantes. I don't know. Yeah. That just came out of nowhere to me. Right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It just went so... the part about him wanting to stalk her made sense to me.
But speaking of that, did you think that Brad was going to be an issue? Well, I read you the synopsis. That was around the time I read you this. But
remember when you read it to me and I was like, oh.
By the way, if you don't follow us on TikTok, go ahead and follow us. I put a video of Arie at the bookstore, and the caption said, when you read it, when your best friend reads you a synopsis and it ruins the entire book. So she was way ahead of me in Lights Out, and I had read her the synopsis for whatever reason. And she was like, oh my God, because it kind of just put in clues as to where she was. But go ahead and follow us on TikTok if you're not. But so you
didn't think initially it was gonna go that far. They had a moment in the hospital, and I was like, this guy could be a problem. But bro,
so
it was a whole plot change. It was like the book. I read a whole nother book.
Right.
I had to put down Lights Out, and I picked up a whole other book.
And that's something,
at that point.
And that's something this is my second or third dark romance. Like, that's something I want to touch on. But real quickly, going back to Brad. So Brad is a serial raper, whatever person. He comes from a really wealthy family, and every time victims try and press charges on him, his family is able to get him acquitted of those charges. He ended up being at the because a sibling of a victim that he assaulted found him out in a bar or something and whipped his ass. Arie had to go tend to him as a nurse, and he ended up saying some slick stuff to her. She got in his face or whatever the case may be. And from then, he decided to stalk her. He ends up breaking into her house while Josh is there. This is the scene that I'm talking about. So in my mind, that situation, you should just call the cops. To me, out of nowhere, for them to want to try and be like, whatever. One thing that I was for was the idea of them dropping him off at the victim's house. I was for that. Remember, that was an idea. They're like, we're gonna. So in my head, I was like, hell, let them fuck his ass up. You know what I'm saying? Because he's like,
that was a little bit better to me.
Yes, that would have been in my brain. I was thinking that was gonna happen, and then maybe a continuation of him either getting really bad, fucked up, the whole trial. I don't know that, but it's like the way they actually were on the way to go drop him off. When they opened the trunk, they saw that he was dead because Josh accidentally taped his mouth and his nose shut. So that was my thing. First, I feel like I just would have called the cops. That just went a little bit too left for me. And then the death of it, you said
it was just it was unnecessary.
And how I would have really, and it's like, I hate to say this because I don't think I'm a vulgar human, but it's like people like that. I would have rather him got beaten to death, honestly.
Or in the middle of a tussle fight moment, he cracked
like
his head on the freaking marble or some shit like that. Not shot up.
Some shit. But
she did have a gun, remember? And he replaced the bullets with empty bullets.
Because he knew she was crazy.
He was like, she might shoot me. Let me put that.
Oh, yeah, that's how fucking
methodical
Josh is.
She wasn't somebody you could easily fuck with.
She's not as scared as a bitch, so she already had that energy in her. It was just like, do you get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
She wasn't like, oh my God. I think she had 2 or 3 guns around her fucking apartment. So she really was just on and popping.
Exactly.
She wasn't someone that was going to hesitate.
So it made sense that she was down for the freakiness that he had going on.
She was just really about it. Like,
Josh picked the right one in that sense.
He really did. So this is not really a question, more so a statement. So one thing that I really loved about the writing style of this book is that I already love different POVs kind of books. But one thing that I really liked about this one is that the POV stayed in the scene. So it's like one chapter would end and they'll switch to Josh's POV, but in the same scene.
Yes.
I love that. Most POVs is like Ariel went to the store, next chapter, Mallory's at the pool somewhere else.
It happens in thrillers a lot, and it confuses you a little bit.
Really?
right?
I haven't noticed that.
I feel like sometimes with thrillers they'll do that.
But so that's one thing I really love because it gave
like you continuation. It keeps going.
It gave you a different perspective of the same actual moment. So Nevessa, that's definitely one thing that I really enjoyed about your book. Like, I just wanted to throw that out there because I really enjoyed that. This is a question that I didn't put much thought into, but I figured we can talk about it out loud. Who would you cast as Josh, Alie, Brad, and Tyler? So who would you, the main character, Alie, who would you cast as Alie?
Alie?
It's one thing that I did like about how they described her. They described her as muscular and tall. So that was pretty cool because I feel like most girls that the main character girls, like the softer girls or whatever, they're described as little, like Violet. They're described usually as a little girl that has so much punch to them. You know what I'm saying?
But they're usually so small and petite, easily to pick up kind of girl.
More feminine, those kind of things. But Alie, they described her as tall and muscular. I remember specifically them saying that, and I was just like, oh, snap.
If it was, I honestly, it's hard because I already know she's a white girl in my brain. So it would have to be probably Hunger Games girl, Jennifer Lawrence. I could see her doing it. Who would you pick?
I don't know. It's crazy because I don't know. I've been trying to think of somebody muscular though, for real. I imagine a girl that is super toned.
I could think of older people like that used to be I feel like the older actors, women actors used to be a lot more toned, like Sigourney Weaver in Alien, people like that. But for Josh's
appearance, I didn't imagine him as someone super attractive to me. I imagine him as someone's attractive, super chiseled, like that perfect, probably full brows, sharp jawline, great hair. Almost like a Jesse from Full House.
No, Jesse is small.
But this look.
I was thinking of the guy from Euphoria. Do you watch Euphoria?
Maddie's dude? As Josh? I can see him as Brad.
There's certain people that
like a Brad.
Who's Tyler?
Is that his name? Brad's friend? Not Brad's friend. Josh's friend. By the cover. Would you have picked this book off the shelf?
No.
Well, why not?
I did. The cover to me looked so cheesy.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of people had been putting it up. What the fuck is that? What is that? It didn't give me dark, sexy romance at all.
Right.
It gave me something weird. And not even weird, just random. It looked random to me.
Right.
So I don't think I could.
So I don't think I would have picked it up off the cover either, just by the cover, because it looked a little intimidating. But intimidating is a genre that I probably would not care to read, which leads me to the next question. So by the cover alone, what mood or genre were you getting or expecting from the book?
Well, I knew it was a dark romance already. So that's a little bit hard for me to say. But when I did see it initially, I was thinking like college frat.
Really?
Looking like a frat party went wrong.
Got it.
That's what I was thinking. And then when people started talking about it and saying what it was, I was like, dark romance. But it didn't initially give me dark romance. It more gave me some type of clubby, seedy cold frat. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what it was given because it looked like a mask, but then it looked some type of neon lights on a mask, like a party. So I was like...
So I didn't know what the book was about. As I said earlier, Ariel saw it all over TikTok and suggested that we read it. And I was just like, whatever. So by the cover, it was giving me more tribal witchery or fantasy. That's literally what I was getting from it. Before you actually broke it down to me. And remember you started reading it before me.
What does your cover look like? There's two covers.
The blue with the mask.
There's two covers.
Literally the one that we put in the TikTok. Is that the one you saw?
That's the initial one I saw. But then when I downloaded when I downloaded it for my iPhone, it has a whole nother mask. That mask looks witchy.
The other one.
It has a more sinister, dark, witchy look.
But that's just what I got by the cover. That's just the vibes it was giving me. So a couple of other follow-up questions. So how did you feel about the ending?
So I'm going to say that I'm going to go back a little bit more because it's still considered the ending to me, but not all the way at the end. So it wraps up to me when her family is involved and they went to the dinner and he had to threaten the cousin or the uncle. I forgot what
the uncle.
He's an uncle?
Uncle.
He's Allie's uncle. And I feel like they're trying to set it up for book 2. And then I did find out, I think book 2 is coming out in June. But I do feel like that part is going to blossom into something else. But I don't really care for the fact that they proposed to each other. When she proposed to him, I was like, what the fuck?
She said, marry me. I actually forgot about that. So she was
like, marry me. And I was like, what? And then she turned around and he was asking her to marry him.
Even he was like, what?
Because so she was like, this is why you don't say anything when you're when you just finished coming.
Yes.
Which I completely agree with. You do need to keep your lip a little tight. Future advice, because you might say shit you're not supposed to be saying.
Right.
If you're like, so I thought that it was fun with the hunting part, but then it lost me with the whole, oh, we're gonna get married, and it was so happily ever after, but in your face. It was just too happily ever after. And I feel like leave that for the real romance books. Leave it for the real, actually happy-go-lucky romance books. This is a dark romance. Give me some toxicity. Give me some, oh, your ex is calling and we're leaving it on a cliffhanger because now Josh wants to murder your ex.
Right. So I feel you 100%. So the ending, like you said, it was two endings, the drama with the family and then the whole hunting thing, right? So the hunting thing to me it was just a sidebar. To me, I wouldn't put that as the actual ending. I think the drama with the uncle, like you said, it's alluding to the fact that there's a second book, right?
To come.
I don't care for the ending at all because I was even annoyed with the drama with the uncle and the family because I just felt like,
where did it come from?
Yeah, but it came from the fact that Tyler had to open his mouth and say that he was a hacker, and the uncle helped them dispose of the body. And because they now know that Tyler has this skill, Josh, sorry. Now that they know that Josh has this skill and they just assisted them with disposing of a body, they're pretty much implying you owe us kind of thing. But like I said, that drama was just a little to me.
Because, this is my first dark romance.
Really?
50 Shades of Grey is not a dark romance to me, though.
I can see it being a dark romance, but
I don't think it is because I feel like dark romance is dark. I don't think it's just BDSM. I think it's dark shit is going on. How he was stalking her, how he was like, how she, you know what I'm saying? It got a little more crazier. I feel like hers was just something you do in the bed. Anyways, so we could explore that on another day, right? But I feel like this has to be considered my first dark romance, and I'm interested in the genre. I'm definitely down to try some more. This one's done. I don't need to know nothing more about Josh and Alie. Messy. I'm done.
Josh and Alie, seriously. But I'm gonna be really honest with you. I still would recommend the book. I still feel like it's a good read. It's a good read. There's a lot of good, interesting moments, especially if you are into spicy dark romance.
I was cracking up. I was like, oh shit. I would be laughing.
I would still recommend it. We made it all the way to the end. We actually were just trying to read another book where we didn't even finish it. So this one actually still held us. You want to talk about it? This one actually still held us, so I would definitely still recommend it. But
if she literally would have had him hunting her in the forest, this is my alternate ending that I came up with. Hunting her in the forest, and right when he was about to the sirens would have went off. Helicopters came from above and they got him, snatched him up, and we don't know why. I would have wanted to read book 2. If he would have been doing that and then a hunter would have shot him in the shoulder, blood splattered on her face, and now she's, you know what I'm saying?
But there was a second.
It needed a little bit more at the end. It was too pretty with the bow.
There was a second during the whole hunting scene where I did think something like that was going to happen. I forgot, but it didn't happen. But I definitely understand.
You know what I mean?
One thing that I can say, the last dark romance that I read, I forgot what the name was. We'll put it somewhere.
With the sharks?
Yes. Dang, what is it? I'm going to put it, we're going to find it, I'm going to put it somewhere. One thing that I can say comparing the two dark romances, which bothered me with both being a dark romance, is that sometimes I felt like I was reading a whole different book, especially because of
the plot don't be having nothing to do
with the dark romance part. It's crazy because in both books, in each part, the dark romance, the thriller part, or the intense crime part or whatever, in both of the books, when I got to each part of that, I would forget this is happening. Oh, okay, this is happening.
Make it mesh a little bit more, make it make sense.
So that's just one thing that throws me off. But I just, from this being my second or third dark romance, I feel like that is a trend for it. And I think that they're making it a trend because it's people's real life. People actually live like that in the sheets, but then still have a real life around
going on simultaneously.
Right. But it does.
The Masked Man.
The Masked Man, has a real life.
That was cool. I actually thought that was a really cool concept.
It was.
I wouldn't have thought of that on my own. He's masked. He's on the internet. He's doing his thing.
Before we wrap it up, right? How did you think? Wait, first of all, how did Alie know? So when the Masked Man started to break into her house, she wanted to figure out who the Masked Man was.
Yeah.
But she remembered Tyler, the one that she used to mess around. She remembered his roommate, Josh, was a really good with computers. So she hit up Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's his name. I hope his name is Tyler.
We're saying Tyler.
She hit up Tyler and said, yo, your friend is, I remember he's good with computers. I need him to help me find somebody. He said, all right, cool. So he linked them up and Alie went to the house. Josh had to present as himself because he had met Alie from when she used to date his dude, his friend. And so he had to set up this whole thing. And in that moment, comes to find out, she was squeezing his hand because she had stabbed his hand by accident. She was squeezing his hand trying to see if it was him. She knew. But how does she know?
It's not that she knew. She just was like, if it's going to be anybody, because she said there was something about how it had to be somebody that she knew of, somebody that has known her at some point. So that's why she figured it was him. And then she was like, he's good with computers. And I think, honestly, I have to say it's probably his build. I think that was probably a key one for her. He just had the same exact build as the guy in the mask. You can't really hide it.
And honestly, she was like, when she had first walked in, his body did, she probably was having the same
reaction, the energy, the feeling. But he really went out his way. He literally washed himself with a whole other soap.
Yes.
He did all kind of shit. She took his DNA.
His hair. But then his freaking ass, he was like, he wore Tyler's jacket on purpose because he knew she was going to do something like that. So it had Tyler's DNA.
But then she
still
took his
DNA from the blood.
And then it was like, that's when they found out that it was the dad. She found out it was the dad.
That's another thing. What dad?
Well, she remember because what happened was her friend ran it through the big database.
That was another thing that
we didn't even talk about that part.
I know, but that's what I was gonna say. And that was another thing where there were certain again, I still recommend this book. There was a certain things that were all over the place, and I feel like that was one of them because they would randomly bring that drama up. His father was a serial killer. And that was one of the reasons why he went into hiding and went into a hole because Netflix had just released a series and he looks so much like his dad. And so when being the fact that he looked like his dad and then finding out what his dad
and most people are going to just judge him and think that he's probably just like his dad.
So he went into hiding. He paid a lot of money for his family, like his mom and I think his stepdad, to pretty much get removed off the internet, all this stuff. But anyway, so they randomly would keep bringing that up because he was scared of his own self, just being fearful of him being his dad. So they would randomly bring that up, but it's in my head, I was just like, it went nowhere for them to bring it up, of the drama with his dad. It literally did not go anywhere. I really felt like
nobody really cared except for the family member. Remember, his uncle is the only one who ended up caring.
It was just like, I wish there was, well, not that I wish. I feel like if they were going to bring that up as much as they did, that there should have been more connections to that. Maybe him actually, I don't know, smacking her because it just came out of him. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? It was just like,
it's weird because that's one that I felt like the author actually could have kept going with and it would have made more sense. If the father got released.
Didn't he die? No?
I don't remember. I don't know. But I'm just saying, if they kept going based on that, maybe he died, but he didn't. He came back. It would have tied it a little bit more together.
There was some loose, not super loose, but just like they're like this.
Anywho, I finished my whole drink.
Not your whole one.
It's all done.
So do you have any wrap-up questions?
No. Teacher.
So
cheers on my last sip.
Out of 5, what would you rate this book?
In the genre of dark romance. Not overall as a complete book. It's definitely not going to the Pulitzer Prize winner. But I would probably do a 3.5.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And
it was entertaining. I would even watch the movie if it came out on Netflix.
Yeah, in my brain, any scoring that I give that's out of 3, to me, it was good enough where I finished it.
Solid.
And is it going in my top reads? No. But again, I would still recommend it.
I would recommend it.
It's still an interesting,
it's a
fun read. It's a lot of, the spicy scenes are like, woo.
No, the spicy
if you're into
good.
Spicy scenes, if you want
to
get into
you going like
stuff,
this in your seat while you're reading it.
No, literally. There'll be moments where I was just like, I ain't even gonna, I done put the phone down a couple times and did a little.
No, you didn't. Shut up. I'm putting that out. Stop it.
But seriously, it had some good spicy scenes. She
Yeah.
did really great character building on.
I was in the book.
So I'm with you on a 3.5. Yeah. I am interested in maybe looking into other books of her. No, real quick, I want to find the name of that book before we go.
The shark one?
Yes, because I really feel like, what is it called? If you like Lights Out, read this book. Because this one is actually, the spicy scenes are a lot more spicier to me.
Really? In the shark one?
And she keeps calling it a shark one. There's only one scene with the shark.
It's because that's all you told me
I know,
about
because that one was wild. But so anyways,
Yay. All right. Thanks for tuning in. So that was Lights Out by Nevessa Allen.
Thank you for hanging out. If you have not already, go ahead and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and share it to a fellow book lover.
Yes.
Comment, give us your thoughts, your opinions, ideas. Go ahead and follow us on TikTok and on Instagram. And yeah, just hang out with us. Thank you for being part of the club. We appreciate all of you. Toodles.
See you later.